everyone, it's Heidi again. We are reacting to another Not Just Bikes video. Today we are reacting to Stroads. I tried to see if I could reach out to Not Just Bikes because I know that there's a controversy going on whether they like people reacting to their videos or not. I couldn't really find an email, anything like that, so I figure hopefully we have enough insight that they'd be okay with it. And Not Just Bikes, if you see this and you're not okay with it, reach out to me. But today we are reacting to Stroads. That says they're ugly, expensive, and dangerous, and they're everywhere. I know a tiny bit about, but I mean, just from the comments and things like that, I kind of know what he's talking about, but I'm interested to see what he has to say about Stroads. I think that they made up the name, so this should be interesting. Let's do this.
This is the 5th video in my Strongtown series. You don't need to watch the others to understand this one, but it might provide some context. If you live in the US or Canada, then this will certainly look familiar to you. Multiple lanes of car traffic, wide highway-sized lanes, giant signs, traffic lights, parking lots, lots of driveways and side streets with traffic merging in and out.
Yep.
And a place that's nearly impossible to cross as a pedestrian. There isn't even a sidewalk here.
Yeah.
These are what Strongtowns refers to as Stroads, which is a horrible name, and that's intentional because these are horrible places. Stroads are a street-road hybrid, and they are dangerous, expensive, and ineffective. I'll get to those issues in a moment, but first, let's talk about the difference between a street and a road, according to Strongtowns.
Huh. Okay, not gonna lie, I thought that it was like kind of streets, like sidewalks in the middle of a street where people can walk on. It seems like maybe this is not what I thought it was, but we'll keep going.
This is a road. It is a high-speed connection between two places. Because of the high speeds involved, there are several safety features. The lanes are wide and forgiving so that vehicles do not bump into each other. The road is as straight as possible, and when curves are necessary, they're designed to be gentle, making it easy to drive along. The area next to the road, called the clear zone, is free of any obstacles that could be hit, just in case a vehicle runs off the road. The signs are very large, designed to be read from a distance and at high speeds. And entrances and exits are few and far between because the road is designed to keep vehicles at a high speed for as long as possible to minimize travel times.
I should have honestly known that Stroads is streets and roads combined. I honestly didn't even think about it, but now it makes sense. That's why you watch the videos before assuming anything.
Roads are important. We need roads. Though I personally prefer my roads to have rails. This is a street. It is a complex environment where life in the city happens. Buildings are placed right next to the sidewalk to be easily accessible by people walking, and it gives a sense of space, almost like an outdoor room. This is a place that feels comfortable to be in, so you find people here.
Oops, and it's so cozy, huh? I love that. I love little streets like this.
There are many entrances and exits to and from the street, and there may also be street parking for vehicles and deliveries. This is an environment meant for slow speeds because this is a destination, not a thoroughfare. High-speed traffic is not compatible with lots of human activity, so vehicle speeds are reduced. Everything on the street is at a human scale. It's designed to be inviting, encouraging people to walk, to window shop, or to just sit and watch the world go by. The street is designed to get the most value out of the space available.
It's so
Streets
lovely.
are very important, and we definitely need streets. A strode, on the other hand, is neither of these things. Just like how a futon converts from a terrible uncomfortable couch to a terrible uncomfortable bed, the strode is the futon of transportation. It is a street that is designed like a road, and in doing so, it fails at being good at either one. The strode fails at being a street. There are many driveways to businesses and homes, like you'd find on a street, but mixed with multiple highway-sized lanes. This mixes high speeds with many points of conflict. Watch out for this white car turning, and this cyclist. Are there any cars coming out of these driveways?
That is something that I never ever would want to do, is live on a strode, you know, whatever. Live on a higher speed road. There's so many houses here that are just right, going right into a super high speed road, and I just could not even imagine. I'm like, I don't know how you guys live there. Anytime hubby and I are looking for a house or anything, we're like, oh no, that would suck. That would suck to live there. Nope, that's not a good one. That's true.
Unlike a street, stroads are hostile to people outside of a car. There are lots of motor vehicles and speeds are high, so walking or cycling feels uncomfortable and dangerous.
Yep.
There are long distances between places, and there are often large parking lots that need to be crossed before getting anywhere. And it's basically impossible to cross the Strode except by walking to a traffic signal and waiting. The signs are large and meant to be read while driving, which feels really out of scale if you're walking there. And often trees have been removed from the clear zone, making the environment even more uninviting if you're not in a car.
True.
Somehow, though, painted bicycle gutters are still okay in the clear zone. Traffic engineers are...
Just look at how they are just driving right onto the bicycle lane, That's why nobody likes riding bikes. That's why the US is so terrible for walkers, pedestrians, basically, is because of this kind of stuff. It doesn't give people enough room to ride their bikes or walk or things like that. And it's just very, very made for cars everywhere. It's interesting. I know that we've talked about this on the channel, that the difference. The US is made for cars, not people.
Concerned about drivers hitting a tree, hitting a cyclist is expected. This is clearly a place for cars, so it's unsurprising that pretty much everyone drives here.
Exactly.
Trust me, it sucks to walk down this Strode. But these environments are ugly anyway. Nobody cares about these places and nobody wants to spend any time here. Cities in the US and Canada are covered in terrible non-places like this. Places you go because you have to, not because you want to. Nobody actually sits and watches the world go by on this bench.
That's kind of true. That's really interesting. I do feel like a lot of people here are very into, what is it? What's the saying? It's you work to live, not live to work. Or we live to work and other people work to live. Yeah, there we go. Basically, our life is our work, and just we're going from one place to the other, boom, 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 and we don't really take in what's around us. Sometimes because we don't like what's around us. And that's probably not just here in the US, but I think that's an interesting point.
But the Strode fails at being a road too. The lanes are wide and there are a lot of them. You're surrounded by asphalt, but you can't actually get anywhere quickly like you can with a road. There are cars constantly changing lanes and going in and out of the Strode, slowing down traffic and introducing many points of conflict that require drivers to constantly slow down to avoid a collision. Traffic volumes can be quite high on Stroads because there are no viable alternatives to driving. Distances are too far to walk and it's too unsafe to cycle, and since public transit gets stuck in traffic anyway, only the poor and the desperate will take the bus.
Yeah, it's probably one of the only places in the world where, taking a car is way, way faster than walking or biking or taking public transit. I feel like just as we've been learning about places in Europe, things like that, it's very efficient to, I'm having a hard time remembering words today. I don't know why. It's very efficient to use public transportation. They try and make it as fast as possible. They try and make it so that you don't have to wait too long for it at a stop, but not here. It is way slower to take a train or a bus or something like that than just hopping in your car and getting there, which is, it makes it so that you kind of need to own a car or have access to a car to be able to get anywhere, on the fly.
So everyone drives.
Yes,
but
exactly.
Because there are so many crossroads, entrances, and exits to the Strode, traffic lights are required, meaning drivers are constantly stopping at red lights. And because speeds are high, light timings need to be very long, leading to traffic signal-induced congestion. Nobody is getting anywhere quickly on a Strode.
Yeah.
All of these elements make Stroads unsafe as well, and the majority of fatal crashes within cities happen on Stroads. They are especially dangerous to people walking and cycling.
Yeah.
The wide and straight design of highways were designed that way to make them safe for high-speed traffic. but the Strode to hell is paved with good intentions. On a
Strode to
Strode,
hell.
these wide highway-like designs encourage drivers to drive quickly. But combining that with traffic turning in and out of driveways and lots of four-way junctions makes this the most dangerous type of urban driving possible.
Yeah, and when people are parked on the side of the road like that, a lot of the times you have to just kind of wait behind your car and wait for traffic to just rush by. Because if you open your car door, a car's gonna run right into it, or you're gonna stop traffic because of it. And so you have to kind of like rush to your car, open it, and then shut it before the next car comes speeding by. It's so dangerous. No, I agree.
This is an inherently unsafe way to design a road, and it's part of the reason why the US has the most dangerous roads of any developed country. For example, during the coronavirus lockdowns in the first 9 months of 2020, car volumes in the US dropped significantly.
Okay, wait.
Virus lockdowns in the first 9 months of 2020, car volumes in the US dropped significantly.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that's okay. That's fair.
But despite an estimated 355 billion fewer miles driven, fatal crashes per mile actually increased by up to 34%. This brings us to the sad truth.
Wait, what?
That the only reason these unsafe American Strodes aren't killing even more people regularly is because they're usually so jammed up with traffic that drivers can't get going fast enough to kill each other.
Oh my gosh, that's interesting.
And finally, Strodes are really expensive. Because Strodes are built to a highway standard, their lanes are very wide and there are never less than 4 lanes. Plus, there's normally extra space for shoulders and clear zones at the side of the road.
I love that there's 3 lanes, even though he says there's never less than 4 lanes. Anyway, I just thought that was funny.
Too.
Sorry.
Plus, there's normally extra space for shoulders and clear zones at the side of the road too. Because Strodes try to be streets, there are many entrances and exits, so many turning lanes are required. But because of the high speeds, turning lanes are much longer than on a street, taking up even more space.
Oh, does he mean both ways? So there could be 2 and 2, and so there's never less than 4 total? Oh, I think that's what he means. I don't think he means 4 going one way and 4 going the other way. It's 2 going one way and 2 going the other way. My bad. I think that I misunderstood that.
And as traffic increases even more, due to traffic entering and exiting the Strode, the city will install another traffic signal for $750,000. All of this means that a Strode is much bigger than a road that would carry the same amount of traffic, and significantly larger than a street that would have the same number of businesses and houses along it. As the size of the Strode increases, there are several other costs incurred. High-speed Strodes need to be flat, so the area that needs to be graded increases. Land may need to be purchased from residents to widen the Strode and destroy their property values.
Yeah, that's
By the way,
happened.
do you think this girl is waiting to cross this 5-lane Strode? Flood protection infrastructure becomes much more expensive due to the impermeable surfaces, and there's a huge amount of asphalt and traffic control systems to maintain. And of course, because everyone drives, large parts of the landscape need to be dedicated to parking lots, meaning everything is inherently spread out in low density. Parking lots don't employ anyone, and they don't earn much tax revenue either. A Strode environment is significantly less financially productive than a street, but with significantly more infrastructure. The result is a mix of high cost per area maintenance expenses combined with low value per acre tax revenue, which makes these Strode environments a net negative for cities. These places are literally putting American cities on the Strode to financial ruin, and they're doing it while being dangerous, ugly, and ultimately ineffective at actually moving people.
Man, they are ugly.
The Strode fails at every metric, but it's the default setting for transportation design almost everywhere in the US and Canada. So what's the alternative? Well, Strongtowns advocates for one of 2 things. First, you can convert a Strode into a road. This means limiting access to the Strode, accessing businesses and neighborhoods from side streets. Painted bicycle gutters need to be removed because moving vehicles is the primary objective of a road. People can still walk or cycle, but these paths need to be completely separated from the flow of traffic.
Nice. Yeah.
In this way, the Strode becomes a road, a high-speed connection between 2 places. The other alternative is to turn the Strode into a street. For this, the lanes need to be narrowed and parking needs to be moved to the curb or behind buildings, and the buildings themselves need to be built closer to the street. Everything needs to be brought down to a human scale, making it inviting to people and getting more value from the space available. This isn't a hypothetical, and we don't have to imagine what this would look like, because the Netherlands has already done it, just with 3 types of infrastructure instead of the 2 proposed by strong towns. You will almost never find a Strode here, because in the 1990s, the Dutch adopted the concept of sustainable traffic safety. And one of the key pillars of this program was that every road and street in the Netherlands has to be classified and designated as one of the following 3 options. The first is a stroomweg, which is pretty straightforward. It is a motorway or highway. I think everyone is familiar with these, so I won't spend too much time on it, but the important thing here is that there are no traffic controls. Cars enter and exit through merge lanes, and you will never find a traffic light or roundabout on a stroomweg.
Yes, or a freeway or something
Highways
like that.
should also go around cities and never through cities. I'm looking at you, Cincinnati. Actually, that's not fair, because basically all American cities did this. Thankfully, the plan to do this to Amsterdam was unsuccessful.
Is that weird to have freeways or whatever the word was going through cities? Because for me, ever since I started driving, the biggest thing with where I was, going to school, where I was living, things like that, excuse me, still getting over a cough, was how close am I to a freeway? Like if I'm 5 minutes away from a freeway, or if I'm right off the exit of a freeway, then that's going to allow me to get to places faster. And so I wanted a freeway to be as close as possible to where I lived. But he's saying that, we should keep freeways out, or highways, I guess, out of cities. In my mind, I'm like, oh, I thought that was a good thing. But if public transportation and things like that was better, and if it was easier for me to ride a bike or something like that, then I could see, that being a good thing. But it is, I don't know, in my mind still, just because of the way that the US is set up, it's nice to have freeways, going through cities. For me. Duh. Very interesting. Tell me, what you think.
Moving one level down is the Gebiedsontsluitingsweg, the distributor road.
I accidentally clicked the space bar because I'm like, what is this?
These are the connectors between highways and streets. There may be entrances and exits to other streets and roads, but driveways to houses or businesses are avoided as much as possible. And if traffic controls are necessary, then roundabouts are preferred, unless traffic volumes require a traffic light. I'm going to refer to these as roads.
Okay.
Finally, there's the Erftoegangsweg, the neighborhood access street. These are the end destinations for journeys, the places where people live, work, shop, relax, and so on. I'm going to refer to these as streets. Streets are designed to be low speed with a speed limit of no more than 30 kilometers per hour, and they almost never have more than one motor vehicle lane per direction. In many cases, vehicle speeds are slow enough that separated bicycle infrastructure is not required, though bicycle paths may still be used to purposefully narrow the street, constraining the space available for motor vehicles. The street network is designed to discourage through traffic by cars, either through traffic calming or by explicitly blocking cars while still allowing walking, cycling, and public transit to take the most direct route.
Yeah, honestly, this is how I feel at the front of a grocery store, because there are always people walking around and going back and forth. I always kind of avoid that area, and I'll go towards the back of the parking lot instead of through where the entrance of the grocery store is, just because I don't want to have to deal with all of the pedestrians and things like that. So I can see that being effective, where they're like, there are a lot of people here, and I can see how there would be less car traffic because people, it would just be easier to get out and walk instead. Interesting.
I've talked about this before in my invisible infrastructure video, where I show a typical trip by bicycle through the street network compared to the very different route by road that is taken when driving. Once you learn about these 3 types of road in the Netherlands, what I'm unofficially calling highways, roads, and streets, it's really interesting to drive around and see which type you're on. This is a street, This is a road. This is a street. This is a road.
You can just hear the difference. I mean, the streets, obviously, you're going slower, and so there's going to be, quieter volumes. And then on the highway, it's a lot louder. And we talked about that. I mean, in the last Not Just Bikes video that we reacted to, just how loud fast traffic can be and how disruptive it can be if it's, where you're working or where you're living. Interesting.
This is a road with streets on either side to access houses. Since this is a relatively recent concept, only implemented about 30 years ago, the best place to see this in action is in newer developments. Here we are driving on a road outside the town of Nulausen. This road is designed to move vehicles, so there is no direct access to adjacent properties. The homes and businesses are accessed by streets on the right and left side, and the road is mostly accessed by roundabout.
That's pretty cool. I know that I'm stopping a lot, but I have experiences or things like that to go along with this. When I was living in California, there would be just one block, there would be blocks like this where the street was kind of separate from the houses. There was a barrier with trees and grass and stuff like that. And then you could kind of bring your car in and go slowly and go into your driveway, or you can ride a bike or things like that. But it never went very long. It was like one block. And so there would be maybe 10 houses with this side, little street thing. But it would be nice if there was more of that, because it was nice to not have to worry about people walking or, running into bikers or things like that. So we could maybe do more of that here if we thought about it.
As we exit the roundabout into this industrial park, the road turns into a street where cars and trucks can access the warehouses and industrial facilities safely and efficiently without disrupting traffic on the road. It's also very interesting to see where one type turns into another. This is clearly a street, a residential street in Amsterdam. There is parking on either side, and there are many side streets branching off. There are no traffic lights or stop signs. Speeds are low here, so intersections are unmarked, and you give priority to any vehicle coming from the right.
Yeah, see, there's just like bikes in front of this car. They're just all sharing the same space. Here, if that happened, because people are in such a rush to get places when you're in your car, you try and go like as fast as possible without hopefully breaking the law, that if there were bikes in front of us, we'd be like, get out of the road, get out of here. It is not, safe or friendly for bikers here. I feel so bad.
I've talked about this before in my video about stop signs. This street has a brick road surface, speed bumps, and other traffic calming measures to slow down traffic. The speed limit is 30 kilometers an hour, and bicycle and motor vehicle traffic is mixed. But as we travel down this street, we come to a set of traffic lights, and here is where this street becomes a road. The bicycle path becomes totally separated from motor vehicle traffic. There's no more street parking. The road surface is made of smooth asphalt, and there's a median separating the traffic lanes. There are buildings on either side, but crucially, they cannot be accessed by this road because turning traffic would be inefficient and unsafe. As we travel down this road a little farther, we can see here it turns back into a street. Here's another example in the suburb of Amstelveen. The right-of-way is about 22 meters, which in the US or Canada would be at least a 4-lane road with center turning lane. But despite the space available, there's only one lane of motor vehicle traffic in each direction here, and the lanes are narrow, which encourages drivers to drive slower. Single-lane roads are much safer because cars changing lanes introduces points of conflict between vehicles, and they are easier for pedestrians to cross.
One of my questions that I have, because I know that some of you have made comments on some previous videos about how the US has jaywalking and other places might not. Oh my gosh. I believe here in the US, if you're kind of crossing the street like this, if you're not kind of on the crosswalk, you could actually get fined for that. You could get a ticket for that. Is it not the case in European countries or whatever country you're from, whoever's watching this? Do you guys have jaywalking where you're not allowed to cross the street at certain points? I'm just wondering, how different we are in that.
This also frees up space on both sides for car parking, a bicycle path, and a sidewalk. There are multiple other streets intersecting with this one, bringing traffic in and out of the street. A few meters along, this street starts to turn into a road. Here you can see that access to the houses and parking on the right-hand side are provided by a small side street running parallel to the road, so that through traffic does not compete with drivers going in and out of parking spaces. Travel along this road a little farther and the street has completely turned into a road. There is a stoplight, multiple lanes of motor vehicle traffic, and an entrance to a highway. The bicycle path is two-way and isolated completely from the road.
Wow.
A little farther along, this road becomes quite interesting. Here, there are several houses, but instead of being accessed directly, as they would be on a strode, they're accessible by a two-way side street, which was made purposefully narrow to slow down drivers. This also provides a safe alternative for people cycling. The road itself is only 2 lanes for car traffic, with turning lanes when necessary. One lane has been reserved as a bus lane, and there is a 2-way cycling path as well.
We actually do have some cities, specifically here in Utah now, and probably in other places, but very recently in the last decade or so, where they've created bus lanes for buses to help with, it's usually in college towns, so students can get to school on time and not have to drive, things like that, but stay safe. So that's kind of cool. I'm glad that we've started to implement some things like that here. Hopefully that will continue.
It's also interesting to note that because dedicated bus lanes and bicycle paths are much more efficient at moving people than car lanes, this road configuration can actually transport more people than a typical strode.
Yeah.
The Netherlands didn't change this overnight, and this transition to roads and streets is not totally complete. There are still some streets here that carry too much through traffic, for example, but at least they're usually only 2 lanes wide.
Wow.
This change has happened slowly, with street and road redesigns spread out over the past 30 years. The first step, though, was identifying that there was a problem with road safety and road productivity and changing the design standards to match. It's time to face the fact that designing Stroads as both a high-speed thoroughfare and a destination simply doesn't work. Stroads are dangerous and expensive, they destroy walkability, they make cycling dangerous and infeasible, and they don't work for drivers either.
Yeah, you can see on this one, there's just absolutely no space. I think that you can see maybe a tiny, is that a bike lane right there? I feel like there's not even a line for it. I don't even know if that's supposed to be a bike lane or not, but there's just nothing for bikers.
The US and Canada need to rethink the traffic engineering manuals that define urban spaces and start building productive streets and efficient roads. Then they can get on the road to recovery and benefit from fewer traffic deaths, more viable alternatives to driving, less traffic, and more financially productive cities. It's the end of the road for Stroads. Good riddance.
It's the end of the Strode.
I'd like to thank my supporters on Patreon who pay me to get this show on the Strode.
Yes.
If you'd like to support the channel.
Yes, everybody go subscribe and like Not Just Bikes. You guys have been telling me that they're fantastic, and they really are. They have a lot of really good information. But yeah, very interesting. Yeah, hopefully in the US and Canada, we'll keep making things more efficient and more, friendly for lives rather than friendly for businesses and cars and things like that, Oh shoot, I had something else to say and I don't remember. Oh, what I was going to say just to end is, it's interesting that, people will, I feel like we're always hearing things here that are like, drive safer, wear your seatbelt, there have been this many traffic deaths in the last year, blah, 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 be safe, be safe. And it's like, okay, you're telling us to be safe. Are you doing anything, like cities, are you doing anything to help the environment be safe when it comes to traffic and travel? Or are you just putting that on the people, not really how everything is built? So that's kind of an interesting thing that I've never thought about before. So yeah, hopefully we can continue to make our countries safer. Nobody's perfect. No country is even perfect. But hopefully we can just keep improving. That's the hope, right? So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good one, guys. Bye.